Foldables seem to be the epitome of bleeding edge technology today. And with foldables, there are two types. One is your regular phone kind of form factor that unfolds into a tablet. So you get more screen, you get to do things you can only do on a tablet on your phone. For example, we've got the Fold 2, the Royal Flex Pi, the Huawei Mate XS. These phones kind of did this. On the other hand, we have a different kind of foldable where the phone form factor kind of becomes smaller. So you can fold your phone and make it half the size, and it's just easier to, it's more portable, it's easier to carry around. It's kind of going back to the flip phone form factor. And with this, we've got Samsung Z Flip, which launched at 1.1 lakhs, and priced higher than that, Motorola launched the original Razr. Now the Razer, it banked heavily on the nostalgia factor, and it actually had a chip that could create its own nostalgia because it was an old chip, the Snapdragon 710. Now, burnt with that launch, Motorola has gone back to the drawing board. They've made some very important changes with their second generation Razer, and now the Razer 5G seems to be a much better device. In almost every way possible, it's kind of better than its predecessor. But the big question, is it better than the Z Flip? Does Motorola finally have a competitor to Samsung Z Flip? Is the Razer 5G the phone you need to choose if you like small form factor foldables? Well, let's find out in today's video. Hey guys, Ash here from C4eTech, and if you do end up liking what you see here, thumbs up, subscribe and turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon. Let's now get started. So first, let's start with what the Moto Razr 5G does differently from its predecessor. So what are the changes? What is the Lenovo owned Motorola, which I'm just going to be referring to as Motorola going forwards to keep things simple. What Motorola has done here, what are the changes they've implemented? Let's first take a look at that, and then let's go ahead and see how this stacks up to the Samsung Z Flip. See this display outside? It's still the same size as on its predecessor. It's 2.7 inches, it's a GOLED panel, the resolution hasn't changed either, it's 600 by 800 pixels. So what's new? It's the way we interact with it. So this time around, this display, it sports a full-fledged launcher, so you can launch pretty much any app that you want to. Some of them work well, some of them, they just don't scale to that resolution, that size. But hey, if you want to watch a video, you want to reply to a text message, or you want to just check out your Twitter feed, you can do all that right from this small display up front. Now the reason why Motorola has done this is because if you can do more things with the GOLED display on top, then you're going to be opening your phone lesser. And the fewer the times you open it, the lesser the battery consumed, because a bigger display, a 6.2-inch panel is definitely going to consume more battery than a 2.7-inch panel. So that's the logic they're going for. And talking about battery, that's also been increased from 2510 mAh on the original Razer. It's now 2800 mAh, still not quite as large as the one on the Z Flip, but it is an update nonetheless. There is no wireless charging support, and the charging speed is still 15 watts. They do call it turbocharged though. Now another reason why the battery life is supposed to be better on this one is the chip inside. Gone is that 10nm Snapdragon 710, that old ancient chip. Instead, they've got one of the latest 7nm chips, the Snapdragon 765G. Yes, it's not the 865, it's not a flagship chip, but it is a recent enough chip, so it is new, it's fast, it's snappy. The interface is a lot more responsive. Now you should be able to get most things done well with this phone. Now the RAM, it's up to 8 gigs, so on par with the Z Flip, and the storage has also been upped here from 128 to 256 gigs. So again on par with Z Flip on paper at least. But the Z Flip has UFS 3.0, while this is just UFS 2.1, so not quite as fast. Now another weak link with the original Razer was its optics. That is again something Motorola has addressed here. They've gone for a 48 megapixel sensor, and ironically it's a Samsung sensor, the ISOCELL Bright GM1. This is paired with the f1.7 lens that is optically stabilized. So the camera performance seems to be much improved compared to last gen. At least under good lighting conditions, it was really good. The images came out much better than I expected them to. There's ample amounts of detail. As you can see, the dynamic range is also pretty good. The spot color option has also returned, and this time around it works with videos too. Talking about videos, the video caps out at 4K 30 FPS, which is a chip limitation. Now the display to the inside, that hasn't changed either. So just like the display outside, which has remained the same from the OG Razer, this too is still 6.2 inches. It's a plastic OLED display and the resolution is just a little over HD+. That said, there has been major improvements here. So what are the improvements, you ask? Look at this hinge. This has been entirely reworked, meaning there's not as much gap between the hinge and the panel as was last time around. This leads to the touch, the feel when you use the phone being much better, much more natural. It also means that there is less chance of anything getting under the panel. And finally, the phone, when you fold it, there's no gap. So again, it's not a major change, it's just fine-tuning stuff. But I am happy to see Motorola pay attention to what's important here. Talking about which, when you pick up the phone, one of the first things you're going to notice in terms of differences from its predecessor is that the chin does not have a fingerprint scanner anymore. Because the fingerprint scanner, they've moved it to the back. It is stealthy, it's right in that Moto logo. So where that Moto logo is present, that is the fingerprint scanner, and it felt responsive enough. Other minor changes include the thickness going up a little bit, but that is also accompanied by the weight dropping. So where the original Razer was 205 grams, this one is 192. It is still about 10 grams heavier than the Z Flip, but that's not something you're really going to notice unless you're holding both phones side by side. Even then, I highly doubt you're going to notice a 9-10 gram difference. Now, if you ask me, is the Razer 5G better than the Z Flip? My answer is still going to be no, but the gap has narrowed down considerably. So for example, if you look at the RAM, the storage, they've kind of matched it. And yes, the storage is still slower, but they've matched it on paper. It's not as good as the Z Flip. The gap is narrower. Last time it was 6 gigs versus 8 gigs, 128 gigs of storage versus 256. That's not the case anymore. Coming back to the chip inside, again, it's a major improvement from what we've got with the original Razer, Snapdragon 765G. It is still not an 855 plus, so the Z Flip is still a little better, but the gap has narrowed. Now the optics compared to the original Razer, it is an improvement almost to the point where it performs quite similar to the cameras we have on the Z Flip, but only under good lighting conditions. Under low light, the Z Flip still has a dominance. It also has that ultra-wide sensor which the Razer lacks. Similarly with battery, when you compare it to the original Razer, the battery capacity has gone up 2510 to 2800 mAh, but the Z Flip is still sitting pretty with 3300 mAh. But there is a but here, multiple buts actually. There are things that the Razer does better. Now, for example, the internal display, it slides under that chin, so it does not have a very noticeable crease. It's got 3 creases, but they are not as deep as the crease you see on the Z Flip. So this is a minor positive for the Razer. The major positive is with the display to the front. Now, when you look at the OG Razer, it had a larger panel than the Z Flip. But you couldn't do a lot with it. It was still checking your notifications, seeing what's coming, and that's kind of what you were doing with the Z Flip too, though the Z Flip was a tiny panel. But now, given that there's an entire launcher here and you can launch pretty much any app you want, do pretty much whatever you want with the front panel, the functionality that the Razer is offering, it's just gone up by a lot. So this is an area where the Razer does far better than the Z Flip. Now, is the Razer better value for money? Hell no, because the Z Flip still is cheaper by 16,000 rupees and it's got a lot going for it. But once you start paying over a lakh for a phone, you are definitely not looking at value, are you? Because once you've crossed that 1 lakh landmark, I mean, even if you cross 70, 80,000, none of those phones are great value for money because you've got your 50K phones like the OnePluses and your Realme X3 Super Zoom and your Xiaomi's, which are your best value for money phones. And even with a Samsung, you take a look at the Galaxy S20 FE, that's great value for money. But once you go past that 1 lakh point, value for money isn't people's priority anymore. So if you like the functionality of the Razer 5G, now this time around Motorola has given more more reasons for people to buy it. It's still not as good as the Z Flip in a lot of areas, but if nostalgia is a thing, if you like that front panel display, if you like that sliding plastic OLED, then there are reasons why you should probably get the Moto Razr 5G. And this isn't something I could say about the original Razr. So hats off to Moto here, they've done a decent job, and maybe with the next generation Razr, we'd finally get something that's better than the Samsung Flip, Z Flip. So I guess that's pretty much it for my take on this. So what do you guys think? I've been trying some things different with how I'm doing my videos. So if you're noticing any changes, if you like it, you hate it, whatever, please let me know via the comments below. Your feedback's very important. And I guess that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot for watching. You know what to do, thumbs up, thumbs down based on whatever you felt about the video. Subscribe, turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon if you haven't yet. And thanks a lot for your time. Thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, my name's Ash. You've been watching C4 Retech. And I'm signing off for now. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.